Do you remember Forspoken? Actually did a couple videos on this because, well, it was a somewhat anticipated game. I don't know if people wanted to play this or not. What I do know is it was a PlayStation exclusive, though it was also on PC. Though, from what I understand, it had a lot of problems on PC. I tend to believe that, considering the user score for the PC version is 1.7. Does a little bit better on PlayStation 5, probably because it was optimized for PlayStation 5, and it's sitting at 3.4. Most complaints about the game, cringy dialogue, buggy mechanics, and it apparently, at least from what I saw, is very underwhelming. There's some really good videos comparing it to an Assassin's Creed game, which is, of course, from a, not a recent one either. It was like one in London, I think. But either way, this is irrelevant. The point is they were comparing it to an older game that looked and ran better, walking through like a town full of people like they did in this game as well. And the Assassin's Creed game on older hardware looks better. So a lot of complaints about this game. Didn't live up to expectations. Didn't sell very well. I mean, that's based on assumption. I don't know if it sold good or not because we don't have any valid numbers. What I do know is it really wasn't on the charts. And from what people that had inside knowledge were saying on Twitter, it didn't look good for this game. And I think we can say that now with a little bit more evidence because the studio that made Forspoken is being folded into Square Enix. So this actually broke February 28th. I just found out about this the other day. So the game did so badly, they're shutting down the studio that made the game, which is never a good thing. I mean, that's never a good thing. So what this reminds me of is the Saints Row reboot. The Saints reboot lost Embracer Group. I believe it's an Embracer Group that owns that studio. A ton of money. And that game is, well, that franchise, actually. The game sold so bad it might have killed that franchise. The studio that made it, I believe, is getting shut down as well. Not good. So this game was so bad that it got folded into Square Enix. I'm going to go through this in a second, but this game wasn't without controversy. It was really interesting watching this game come out because people were trying to say that the reason people were being hard on it is because it has a black woman as the lead, which is bullshit. So much so, people were trying to push that so much so that they were melting down about it. Best example is this guy. The original God of War director, David Scott Jaffe, says widespread panning of Forspoken driven by a-holes who clearly don't like black women or black people in general or PlayStation. He had a huge meltdown over this game. And it's like, dude, man, like I haven't seen anybody say anything about this. All the complaints I heard about that game was that it doesn't run very well and that it's cringy, very, very cringy, but with no evidence whatsoever. He ran out saying that people don't like the game because of racisms and misogyny. People just getting ridiculous over this bullshit. He's the best example of it. So he had a meltdown over this game. So that was, people were trying to push that. Didn't go very far because I feel like when people played the game, they saw that it was shit and they quickly ran out on it. So another game that was so bad it shut down a studio. But let me give you the little bit of rundown here. The studio behind Forspoken will soon close shop. Its team will be folded back into parent company Square Enix and tasked with working on other projects. The publisher set up the studio, which included the developers behind Final Fantasy 15 in 2018 to work on new franchises, but Forspoken was its only standalone game as a standalone studio. They issued a statement right here, basically thanking everybody and saying, thanks for the good times. And then they point out here that you have Square Enix quick to take down studios that don't do well, Crystal Dynamics, and a few others were sold because they didn't do well. That came after the Marvel Avengers failure and the Guardians of the Galaxy failure. Now, Marvel's Avengers is a game. Guardians of the Galaxy, which is actually a pretty good game. I played that game, actually. If you could get it for $30, I highly recommend playing it. That game's actually a lot of fun. The Marvel's Avengers game, though, not fun at all. The game sucks. So that's pretty much what's going on with that. I thought that was interesting. I mean, the game sold so bad it shut down a studio. Everyone's tightening their belts now, it seems. Like everybody tightening those belts. What you guys think? Subscribe, like, share the video. Check out my Rumble and Locals, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Make sure to check out my Locals. There's a link in the description. It's a fun community that I'm trying to build over here. If you don't want to support me on YouTube, you can come over here. None of that money goes to YouTube. You also can just come over here for free. But if you are a supporter over here, I do plan on doing an extra live stream once a month and throwing links to the supporters so you can actually come on and have a supporter live stream with me. Also, it's a good place to catch all of my content. You don't have to worry about notifications like YouTube. They'll definitely work over here. So come check out my Locals.